Okay, so this is activity 1, part 1. We just set up yung discussion kasi natin last meeting. Sige nga, baka may gestures uli ako. Bukas ako. Ayan. So, pag set up natin last meeting, pag-answer natin ng problems, first we set up the events na establish naman na siguro natin. Probability is a property ng event, diba? P of A yung notation natin, probability of A. So, set up natin kung ano yung A, ano yung mga events. Sulat natin kung ano mga given, then we answer the problem. Okay, so number 1, the La Salle University Medical Center has 2 power generators operating independently. The probability that a specific generator is available when needed is 0.94. So what's the probability that A, B? So first step will be, define muna kung ano yung events A and B. Actually, gusto ko lang gawin nyo to para wag magkalituhan. Kahit hindi naman formal, lagay mo generator 1 is available, generator 2 is available. Yan, ayos na yan. As long as you know what A pertains to and what B pertains to. Given that, alam natin they're operating independently, 0.94 yung probability for each generator. So P of A would be 0.94, P of B would be 0.94. Then complete na yung given natin, wala namang iba, di ba? So, we fill up, ano yung hinahanap natin? Yan yung sasagutin nyo sana. Paki-fill up ito. What are we looking for letter A? P of what? Both generators daw eh. So intersection. Bakit intersection? Pag sabi natin kasing intersection, sorry if paulit-ulit ito talaga lang kahapon ay lumabas lahat itong mga questions na to. Eh wala ako masyadong nare-receive sa inyo, kaya hindi ko sure talaga. So intersection, you can read it as and. This one you can read it as or. So yun, since both generators are available, A and B are both available at the same time. So A and B. And madali na lang yan independently kasi. Di ba pag independent mo, multiply lang naman yung probabilities. And this is exactly like our ambulance example if you remember from last meeting. Okay? So next, neither generator is available when needed. So ganyan gagawin natin tapos kayo na bahala sumagot. Ano dito sa letter B? Sige, tingnan natin May sumagot ng A intersection B, complement daw niyan. A complement union B complement. Meron pang gustong sumagot. Okay, tingnan natin maigi Pag sinabing neither generator is available, parehas hindi available, di ba? So we can actually write it as hindi available si A and hindi rin available si B. So ito actually. And if we look at these two, hindi sila tulad, hindi equal yan. Pag tiningnan naman natin itong nasa pinaka-left, hindi rin sila equal. Remember yung De Morgan's laws natin ganito. A intersection B, complement niya is basically pwede natin i-distribute yung complement, babaliktad yung sign. So the first two, yan, expression 1 and 2, equal sila pero hindi sila equal dun sa sagot natin maliwanag naman ba yun? Or bakit ganun? A is not available and B is not available. Pag neither kasi parehas dapat, di ba? Parehas hindi available at the same time. So, itong expression na ito, equal din siya sa A union B. Complement nito. Complement of this thing. Okay? Through De Morgan's laws. Yung pwede i-distribute din, babaliktad yung sign. Sige, ayan, ni-receive na. Kapag neither nasa intersection nor is union, di ba? Ang neither nor ay magkapares lagi Sige, wait lang. Yun muna sagutin natin. Pag sinabi si neither generator, sige, itong expression na ito, itong B, it's similar to saying na neither generator A nor generator B is available. Di ba? Pag sinabing neither nor, parehas hindi. Imagine, I am neither, ano ba maganda? I'm neither strong nor fast. Hindi ako malakas, hindi ako mabilis, di ba? parehas. Kuha na ba yun? Sige, isang question na na-receive ko dito is, what does this mean? Sige. Either A is not available or B is not available. So yun. Since by De Morgan's laws, equal itong dalawang to, ibig sabihin, it's every scenario besides yung both of them are available. Medyo ang labo nito. A is available alone or B is available alone. So they can't be available at the same time. These two, etong nasa taas at etong nasa baba, equal sila. So read it as is na lang. Kapag A, nakaganon, not A. Or not B. Ano, nasagot naman question mo? Ayun. Sige. Diyan kasi magsisimula lahat eh. Dito sa review natin on probability. Okay? So, that's it for number 1. So, for number 2, ito yung pinaka-tricky dyan. It's tricky because of the wording ng tanong. Kasi yung wording ng tanong, may guilty na, meron pang serum says you're guilty, di ba? Parang ganun yung itsura. So, ito, take note na itong mga to. Yan yung given, yan yung mga sasagutin nyo. Burahin ko na. For number 2, a truth serum is given to a suspect is known to be 90% reliable when the person is guilty and 99% reliable when the person is innocent. Ayan. So, yun na lang muna. Doon na muna tayo mag-start. Given these scenarios, ano yung mga events natin? You're gonna be tempted kasi na gumawa ng event na guilty, not guilty. Guilty tsaka innocent, di ba? But if you analyze yung problem, parang ganito yung itsura niya kasi. Guilty yung person, si suspect, or not guilty. And at the same time, parang ano to yung mga hatol, mga judgment. Pero it's in the form of a truth serum. Ano sasabihin mo pag in-injectan ka ng truth serum? Serum says guilty. Ganun na lang natin i-phrase. Pag tinurukan ka ng serum, sabihin mo guilty ka. Serum says not guilty. So, ganyan. So, we have 4 scenarios in total. Pwede natin cross-tabulate, ganyan, di ba? We have 4 scenarios in total. Kapag sinabi mong guilty ka, pero tas guilty ka talaga, that's correct. You say you're not guilty, you're in fact not guilty, that's also correct. These two are wrong decisions. So, all in all, we have 4 cells, we have 4 scenarios. But, we can actually express these 4 scenarios as 2 events lang. Let's make G the event where the suspect is guilty. Actually guilty. And then S, serum guilty. Kanya ko na lang isulat . Sabi nung pag ka-inject ng serum, sabi guilty daw. So kapag ni-represent natin tong 4 na to, ito ay G, ito ay G prime, di ba? G complement. Di ba? Yun lang naman ang ibig sabihin ng G complement, not G. Tapos ito ay S, not S. So yun, 2 letters lang yung kailangan para hindi rin siya ganun ka nakakahilo. So ngayon, given na G at S ay ganyan, ano yung 90, ano yung 99, ano yung 5%? Next step, write out yung given. So the 90%, that's the probability of what? Can anyone guess or does anyone know? 90% reliable daw yung truth serum when the person is guilty. So ibig sabihin, pag guilty ka, in-injectan ka ng truth serum, 90% of the time, sasabihin mo talagang guilty ka. So what's fill in the blanks? S given G, di ba? Ayun. So maliwanag, you know that you're guilty, that's a given, that's a fact. What's the probability that you will say that the truth serum will result to saying you're guilty? S given G. What about yung 0.99? Pag innocent daw, sabihin mo innocent ka, tama na naman siya 99% of the time. Okay. Tingnan natin maigi ha. S given G prime ba? Ang S given G prime kasi sabihin ko guilty ako pero hindi pala ako guilty, di ba? Ang gulo kasi ganun yung wording. But yeah, ayan, si Lexi may sagot dito. S prime given G prime. It's a fact that I'm innocent. I'm saying I'm innocent as well. So 99% of the time that would happen. Maliwanag, okay? Sige, 5%. What about the 5%? That's P of what? If the suspect was selected from a group of subjects of which only 5% have ever committed a crime. Nice. Napakagaling naman ito mga to. Yan, G lang, di ba? P of G is equal to 0.05. So 5% chance na guilty talaga from the pool of suspects. So that's it for the given. Now, we only have one question here. Ano yan? What's the probability that he's innocent if the serum indicates that he is guilty? So we're looking for P of what? Ano yung question ngayon? Alam mo ng conditional yan. It nga, what's the probability that he's innocent? So hindi P of G yan. G prime, di ba? So G complement given na serum says guilty. So talagang you read it as is lang. What's the probability that he is innocent? Eto siya. If the serum indicates he is guilty, eto siya. Ayun. And then you just solve for it using the definitions, yung mga equations na diniscuss natin. Hindi nyo siya magagawa using only these three numbers, but you can derive other probabilities as well. For example, P of G prime, easy na yan, 0.95 yan, sure ka. And so on, marami pa kayong pwede ma-derive using other rules. So okay ha, ayan yung events, ito yung given, ito yung question. Ano, okay na? Paano i-identify yung G and S? Paano ito gagawin? Ayun na, talagang nasa sa inyo yun actually. Nasa tanong siya. I don't know how to, if it's teachable o o talagang practice lang talaga. Pero yun, it's from the problem. Meron kang dalawang scenario dyan. Actually, 4 na scenario. I know that these are complements lang ng isa't isa. But you can be tempted to make G for guilty, I for innocent, and then SG for serum guilty, SN for serum not guilty. Pwede rin naman. But at the end of the day, you're gonna realize na G and I are complements of each other. G is also G complement. Dadating at dadating dapat doon. So yun, pinakita ko naman, di ba, yung parang thought process ko. Binasa ko yung tanong, alam kong ganito yung itsura niya. Yan. Alam kong ganito yung itsura niya. Yan. So bale, mag-let any letter para di malito sa mga scenarios. Oo. So maganda na rin talaga na yung letters are G for guilty, S for serum, para hindi mag-halo-halo sa dulo. Pero mga tricks lang naman yun eh. Dapat yung concept ay kung kuha naman kahit anong letter, ayos lang. Okay na? Number 3. 3 na tayo. Sige, 3. Let's go. Number 3. Ano ba yan? Yo, nice. So number 3, let's go. So number 3, medyo magulo na naman siya pero mas madali ito kay 2. Basically, it's a 2-step experiment in which I roll a die. The number on the die, yan, if 1, 2, or 3 shows up, I select a box. Box 1. If 4, box 2. If 3, ay 5 or 6, box 3. And then each box contains several balls. I draw a ball at random from the selected box. And let W be the event that the ball drawn is white. Ang maganda sa kanya, sinet up na niya yung step 1. No need for step 1. Kasi nakalagay, let PUV be events that box 1, 2, and 3 respectively are selected. Diba? Pati yung question, straightforward niya tinanong. Find the probability that if the ball is white, given the ball is white, it came from box 2. P of U given W. Right? So, let's go. Step 2 yung kulang natin. Ano yung meron tayo? We have to list down ano yung probability of selecting each box. And it's gonna be determined by the dice, diba? 1, 2, or 3 shows up. That's 3 out of 6 outcomes will result to box 1. So, doesn't matter if gusto nyo i-roll lowest terms or hindi. Okay lang yan. Next, 4, 1, 6. And then 2 out of 6 for P of V. 1/3. Okay. What about yung 1 white, 2 black balls? How do we incorporate that in the problem? So, first, the probability of getting a white ball, given that it's from box 1, so ganun siya, it's gonna be 1 white ball out of 3 total balls. And then W given U, 2 out of 3. W given V, tulad na yung U tsaka W ko, 1/2 or 3/6. Okay na. So yan na yung given. Just look for P of U given W. So you're gonna have a combination of Bayes rule and theorem of total probability. Yan, may nagtanong sa akin sa inyong section ata yun, nag-message sa akin kung ano mga tricks sa pag-set up ng mga problems. Ito kasi alam mo na may partitions siya eh. Pag may partitions kang nakita, it's gonna be theorem of total probability and Bayes rule. Actually, nasa sa tanong talaga. Kapag conditional probability, nandiyan yung mga salitang given, if the suspect was selected, and if the serum indicates that he is guilty, so conditional probability. And then sa mga union, intersection, mga ano lang yun, or and. So ayos na ha. Yan, good question. Same lang ba ang P of W given U and P of U given W? So hindi. Hindi sila tulad. Sometimes they may be the same but coincidence lang yun. They're never they're not always the same. Dahil magkaiba yung conditions. And kung titingnan mo rin ang tanong dito, anong probability na white yung bola? Ang tanong dito, ano yung probability na box 2? Magkaiba talaga yung kinukuha ko. Fundamentally magkaiba sila. Di ba? So yun, kaya hindi not always equal sila. Sige, so questions pa before we proceed. And mabilis ata yung section ninyo. Matatapos siguro tayo ng maaga. Sige tayo. Kung walang questions, let's move on. Lesson 2, random variables and probability distributions. So this topic actually, medyo ano siya, kayo ba, naalala niyo pa kung paano i-define yung random variables? Pag sinabing random variables, ano yun? Sige, wala namang no pressure. But yeah, random variables, kadalasan, limot yan ng mga students. Randomly selected. Let's see. I-tie up natin lahat-lahat mamaya. But yun, medyo limot lahat yan. And frankly, nung nagsisimula ako magturo, siniskip ko rin yan. Yung concept na yan. Yun pala, as I move on, tawag dito, important itong concept na ito kasi ito yung central concept kung paano masasagot yung mga question nyo na nagagamit ba talaga itong subject na to sa buhay? Ano bang kwenta ng statistics sa buhay ko? Mga ganyang tanong. Okay. So random variables, let's define them muna. Technical definition niya. It's a function mapping events or outcomes of an experiment to real numbers. So events, technical din yan, na-define na natin from last meeting. Halimbawa, sa experiment ng rolling a die, the event of rolling an odd number, event of rolling an even number. Diba? Yun yung events. Okay? So, let's give I'll give some examples. By the way, random variables are commonly denoted by capital letters. So the random variable u takes on the value 1 if I get heads when tossing a fairy coin, 0 if tails. So basically, the random variable u counts the number of heads in one toss of a coin, diba? So anong nangyayari dito? May mapping siya na nangyayari. So kapag h, event ko is h, 1 yung magiging value ni random variable. Kapag p, 0 siya. Same with random variable v. Pag Jollibee kakainin mo, 1. Kapag hindi Jollibee, 0. Pag hindi ka kakain, negative 1. So may events ka na nangyayari. We assign real numbers to each corresponding event. Diba? And random variable w, ito mas straightforward tingnan. Kapag 1 yung lumabas, 1 yung sagot. Pag 2 yung lumabas, 2 yung random value ni random variable. Pag 3, 3, and so on. Pag 6, 6. Sige, so x, y, and z are also random variables. So given these examples, it's actually everything everything can be thought of as random variables. Kaya ako sinabing siya yung central concept ng kasi kaya gumagana yung mga statistics nyo. Kunwari, ano bang mga importanteng bagay ngayon? Kunwari, pag-forecast natin ng cases ng COVID, for example, the reason why we can forecast is because we think of COVID cases as random variables. Random variables din sila kapag, let's say, daily case, number of new cases daily, kapag walang bago, 0. Kapag isa, 1. Kapag dalawa, 2, diba? And so on. Okay. So, kuha ko sa inyo, any other example ng random variables na kahit medyo lighthearted na hindi naman kasing heavy ni COVID. Kahit hindi ganun kaseryoso. Any other example of random variables? Anything that has outcomes na supposedly random. Per day, per person. Yan. Tataas SLP bukas. So basically, ano yan, no? Cryptocurrency yan, no? Value ni SLP, di ba? So kunwari, let X, and you can evaluate in USD naman kunwari or PHP, di ba? Sige, let X be the value of SLP in PHP. Okay. So sabihin natin average in a day. Kasi sobrang volatile yung mga yan, di ba? Parang kada segundo pag nagre-refresh ako ng Binance, mababago agad. Although hindi ako expert sa crypto, ayun. Average value in a day ni SLP. So it varies per day, di ba? So random variable din. So any other example? Sige, tandaan natin to, gamitin natin mamaya. Meron pa? Weather, di ba? So what about the weather? It can be temperature, pwedeng init or lamig. Temperature, it can be something like let y be 1 if mainit, 0 if malamig. Yan. Kaya ako kayo tinatanong kasi we have to formalize yung function. Yan. X is the value ng SLP, hindi yung event ng pagtaas, di ba? Y is either this or the temperature. Both correct. Yan, random variables din sila. Sige, iba pa. Meron pa dyan. So, pwede lahat yan. Magagawa natin ng random variable. Wala na. And yung kahapon kasi may mga sagot pa sila na number of mamamatay ba sa car crash? Okay. Baka morbid naman ito. 1 or 0 din, di ba? 1 or 0? Yes or no? Yes, no. Okay. Kahapon may mga sagot pa sila na ano doon, number of poops in a day. Ilang beses ka na number 2. But it's true. It can be considered as a random variable as well. It varies from day to day, or if you want to divide it per week, every week you have different number of times you go to the restroom. Yan. So basically everything. Ulam sa umaga, hotdog o itlog, pwede naman din. O kunwari ilang itlog ang nakakain sa umaga. And so everything can be thought of as random variables. Okay? We'll make sense of them later, more later pa. Yan. Establish na lang natin na yan. Basta nag-a-assign tayo ng real number sa events, random variables. Sige, next. So let's next is ano ba sabihin ko? How do we classify random variables? We have two classifications, discrete and continuous. So ayan, napakita ko naman na yung next slide. Ayan, we have U, V, W, and X. They're all discrete random variables, whereas Y and Z, they're continuous. And kung naalala niyo pa yung mga stat niyo nung high school, ano yung difference nung dalawa? Kayo muna. Pag sinabing discrete, pag sinabing continuous, even not in the context ng random variables. Exact value at hindi. Parang exact value naman ata lahat. Yun. Precisely ano, yun, napakagaling. Okay. Countable. Discrete random variables take on a countable set of outcomes. Pag sinabi natin countable, hindi yun necessarily infinite. Finite pala ha. Countable is not equal to finite. So okay. Ano yung sabihin ng countable? Pwede natin malista yung first few elements niya, walang kahit ano sa gitna nila. So ito, 0 or 1, 1, 0, negative 1. What about number on the face of a six-sided die? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. What about the number of siblings? Pwedeng wala, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Meron ba akong definite na limit? Wala, di ba? So I don't know. But it's still countable. Since I can't put any other number in between 0 and 1, any other number between 0 and 2, na literally half yung sibling. Wala, di ba? Kahit half sibling pa rin. So, those are discrete random variables. And then, for continuous random variables, paano sinasabing non-countable? As the name suggests, continuous nga, tuloy-tuloy, oo, measurable. So for example, height in centimeters, let's say 160 yung response na isa, 161 yung isa. Infinitely many yung pwede ko isagot sa gitna, di ba? Pwedeng 160.01, 160.02, 160.0105. Napakarami, infinitely many, di ba? So same with temperature in degrees Celsius. So yeah. So discrete random variables are mostly counts. Yun parang pag nagbibilang tayo number of siblings, number of electric fan sa bahay, number of rooms. Yan. Kadalasan ganoon, but not necessarily. Pwede kasi na let's say I have a random variable na ganito. Ano ba magandang example? Yung yung grades nyo na lang, grades nyo pwedeng 4.0, 3.5, 3.0. Tama no, Lasal 2.0, 1.5, 1. Huwag na natin isama yung 0 kasi bawal mangyari yun. Okay. Ayan. So discrete, diba? Even if may mga 0.5, 0.5 siya, countable, wala akong malalagay sa gitna ni 4 and 3.5 when it comes to grade in a subject, right? So yeah, discrete pa din. So now that we've established that, we move on to the concept of probability distributions. Laging magkasama yan. Random variables always have probability distributions. They can be presented as tables or functions. So alright, let's give an example na kaagad. Ano ba yung probability distribution? So let W be the random variable indicating the number on the face of a six-sided die. So if we list out the outcomes, we have these 6. So this table summarizing yung probabilities niya. Di ba anong probability na 1? 1, 6, 2, 1, 6, 3, 1, 6, and so on. This is called the probability distribution of W. So bawat random variable, may probability distribution siya nakaakibat. And we can also write this, yan, tabular form ito. We can also write this as a function. Nagka-typo ako dyan, W ito dapat. Kasi W yung gamit ko. For W equal to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6, P of W is equal to 1, 6. So sinulat ko lang that way. But these two are the same. They indicate the probability distribution of W. So moving on, I hope it makes much more sense na dun sa, let's say, yung COVID example natin. Yung COVID example natin, pwede siyang mag-take on the value of 0, 1, 2, 3, and so on. And each of them have their corresponding probabilities. Anong probability na 0 bukas? Anong probability na 1 bukas? Kunwari x to, ano yung P of x? Meron lahat yan. Pwede ko siya i-fill up. So how do we forecast? One way is, ano yung pinaka-likely bukas? 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or ano? Diba? Ano yung pinakamataas sa mga nakalistang probabilities? So yun, ganun yun nangyayari. Something like that. Although much more complicated computationally, hindi natin gagawin sa klase. Pero that's the concept behind why we can forecast. Okay? So, ayos na yan. Probability distribution. Sipin nyo, pati yung mga ano nyo, pati yung, kunwari, forecast ka ng ano, price ni Bitcoin bukas. Even if hindi mo siya magagawa this way, if we treat those as random variables, ayun, may probability na bukas ay magkano ba yung Bitcoin ngayon? Ewan ko eh. Nasa 3 million yata ngayon, 3.1 million. Anong probability na 3.12 million? Ayun, natama yung 3.1 ko, no? Ayun, di ba? Pesos to. So yun, I hope gets naman. Baka napasobra ako sa ano. Pero yun, idea is may probability for each outcome. Yun lang naman. Alright, so question so far? Oras na ba? Aga tayo matatapos. Questions? Wala pa naman. So let's take another example. Let X be the number of correct answers in a 5-item true or false exam. By the way, we're only gonna discuss discrete distributions for now. Kasi imagine, you can't list out yung mga ano, 'di ba? Yung mga outcomes ng continuous. So, discrete muna tayo lahat. So, since we're discussing discrete distributions, makikita nyo atas dun sa homework ninyo. May tinatawag na PMF yung tawag. So, PMF stands for probability mass function. So, ano yan? Ano yung sinasabi kong probability mass function? Yun din yun. Yung table na yan, yung probability distribution. Special term lang to, probability mass function. PMF yung pagpapaikli sa kanya. So yun, PMF is this thing. So you're given the random variable x. This is the PMF of x. Yan, para lang medyo pakul ka, PMF. Probability distribution din lang yun. And it's unique for discrete distributions. Parang special term siya para sa mga discrete na probability distribution. PMF. Okay, so we have the PMF of x. Yan. The number of correct answers. Pwede siyang 0, wala kang tama, 1, 2, hanggang perfect ka. Diba? And these are the corresponding probabilities. Paano ko na-compute? Mamaya na yun. Okay, so here, we introduce two more concepts, the expected value and variance. So the expected value, mean value of a random variable, it's denoted by E of X. Yan, nagka-error siya, but it's gonna be sigma, ito, yung Greek letter sigma. So familiar naman dyan. This stands for summation. Summation of X times P of X. That's how we read that. And if we compute E of X, it's gonna be the mean value of the random variable. Average value. Ano yung average value? Average value. So, using the same example, yung number of correct answers, how do we compute? So, summation daw ito, diba? So, it's gonna be x0 times its corresponding probability P of X and 1 out of 32. Plus, kasi summation nga parang i-add ko lahat ng mga products na yan. So, 1 times 5 over 32 until I arrive at 5 times 1 over 32. And then my answer would be 2.5. So how do we interpret this? On average, that's the number of correct answers a student may get in this type of exam. So bakit ganun? Wala naman 2.5 correct answers. Average nga So hindi naman necessarily nasa listahan siya ng 0 to 5. On average yan. So kuha siya sa expected value. Okay. So next, the variance. So the variance of X is going to be computed as expected value of X squared minus expected value of X quantity squared. It's a measure of variability. Ibig sabihin, pag mataas yung variance, spread out yung mga values niya, volatile. Kapag maliit, stable or ano siya, clustered yung values. Okay? All right, how do we compute for the variance given a discrete random variable? So, variance of X is equal to expected value of X squared. We compute the first term muna. Kung papansinin nyo, it's just 0 quantity squared times 1 out of 32. 1 squared times 5 over 32 until 5 squared times 1 over 32. Yan yung first term, E of X squared. Okay, take note, hindi si square yung probability ha. You don't square the probability, just the value of X. And we'll arrive at 7.5. So this thing is 7.5, yung E of X squared. What about the next one? We already know E of X, that's 2.5 from the previous slide. We just square it. So in the end, we'll arrive at 1.25. So that's the variance of X. It's a measure of variability. Sige, so questions kayo dyan. Sige, how do we interpret yung expected value and variance? Actually, as is, hindi ko siya, bakit over 32? Mamaya ko na lang sasagutin yan ha. Mamaya ko na lang sasagutin yung bakit over 32. Maniwala na muna kasi kayo sa akin na ganyan yung probabilities. Okay. Sagutin natin mamaya yan. Ipin natin. But yeah, paano natin i-interpret yung expected value and variance? Expected value and variance ay hindi natin siya ma-interpret as is. Kasi ano bang units niyan? Point squared. Yun, hindi siya ma-interpret as is, but it's useful for tawag dito, comparisons. So, balik tayo dun sa example ni kanina ni Edwin. So, kunwari ganito, may pera daw kayo kunwari. Kunwari ay ano ba maganda diyan? Ipon nyo na lang. Nakaipon daw kayo ng pera. Gusto niyo ihulog kung saan. And medyo ngayon ko lang natututunan to You're being offered hulog mo sa UITF. Or yung isa namang kaibigan mo, all in ka na, lagay mo sa Bitcoin. Pero ikaw, ano na lang, to keep it simple, hold ka lang, hindi ka nagte-trade ha. Iwan mo lang yung pera mo doon. So okay, the value of your investment sa UITF, let's say 10,000 lang yung pera mo ha. Either all in ka sa UITF or all in ka sa Bitcoin. So yung value ni 10,000 mo, on average, ang value ng mga naghuhulog ng 10,000 sa UITF, let's say ay value na lang ng earnings in a month, lagay tayo ng specified period, 20 pesos daw. Whereas kay Bitcoin, kano ba kikitain yan? Nandiyan pa ba si Edwin?
Yes, sir.
Mga magkano kikitain yan sa isang buwan pag 10,000 hinulog ko? Palagay mo. Hold lang ha.
Hold lang.
On
Per
average.
month?
Ay, per month.
Ganito? Hindi ko maano yung ilan percent to eh.
Gawin natin 500 pesos na lang. Okay? Medyo ganyan yung kinita ko eh. Maliit lang. Kasi mas maliit yung hinulog ko pala. Okay. So 500 na lang kunwari on average. So as you may see, mas malaki yung kikitain mo, yung Y na lang pala dito ha. Let X be the random variable counting your earnings from the UITF, and Y yung earnings from Bitcoin. Okay yun. So 520. Parang mas okay dito, di ba? But if you see the variance, expected naman na ito eh. Yung concept ng variance, let's say dito is, ano bang variance nito? Let's say 100. Dito lagay natin sa mga 10,000. Ganun talaga. So saan ka mag-i-invest? So it's actually up to you. But we can evaluate Bitcoin as a high risk, high reward na asset. Yung UITF mo ay low risk, low reward. So doon papasok yung concept ni expected value and variance. Doon mo siya ma-interpret. Okay, kunwari nagsusugal ka, may mga perya pa ba kayo? Puro sugal, no? May mga perya pa ba? Doon sa isang laro, expected winnings ko ganito. Variance ko ganito. Ganon din, same thing. Use the concept of expected value and variance. Average kita, how volatile is the asset? Parang ganon siya. Okay. Any questions pa? Wala na ako maiisip na ibang example na off the top of my head. But yeah, let's move on. Last part of our discussion. Yan, special discrete distributions. Okay, so we're gonna discuss a total of four of these. Ano ba muna sila? Special discrete distributions. Kanina, iniisa-isa natin, di ba? Iniisa-isa natin yung table na yan para ma-construct. Fini-fill up natin. Tulad ng mga 1616 natin kanina. However, we have some special distributions na may fina-follow silang rule to fill up those tables. So first, discrete uniform distribution. It's the distribution characterized by similar probabilities for k different outcomes. EMF, alam naman na, probability distribution lang yan, di ba? It's gonna be this function. So let me give you an example. Balik tayo dun sa number on the face of a six-sided die. Let's name it X. Number on the face of a six-sided die. What's so special about it? Tulad-tulad yung probabilities ko, 1/6 lahat. So it's a uniformly distributed random variable. Yan. Kaya dito tayo nagsisimula, madaling i-discuss. So yung notation natin, to indicate that it's uniform, notation lang to, don't be shocked. X follows a uniform distribution with k equals 6. What's k? The number of different outcomes. Since 6 yung different outcomes ko, yan yung parameter kong tinatawag. K equals 6. Hello? Yan. Since alam natin na k different outcomes lang, alam natin na yung probability for each outcome will be 1/k, 1/6 lang. From 1 up to k, 1 up to 6. Ano pa examples ng uniform? Tossing a coin. It's uniformly distributed random variable with k equals 2. Heads or tails lang, 1/2 yung probability each. Yung mga roleta ninyo, let's say we have 8 different panels. So 8 different outcomes, 1/8 probability for each outcome, right? So those are all discrete uniform random variables. So next, what about the binomial distribution? I'm sure nadaanan nyo naman to sometime senior high din eh. So a binomial random variable is the distribution, it's the distribution of the number of successes when you're counting the number of successes in n independent trials of binary experiment or process with a constant probability of success p. Binasa ko lang, ano ba yung sabihin nun? So, bigyan tayo ng example. Balikan natin sino yung nagtanong kanina. May nagtanong kanina, paano ko daw nakuha yung over 32? Sagutin na natin ngayon. Sige, let x be the number of correct answers in a 5-item true or false test. So, why is it a binomial random variable? Bakit kung maisusulat tong line 2 na binomial siya? Let's check. We're counting the number of correct answers. They're the number of successes. Tama. In n independent trials. What do you mean by that? We're doing it n equals 5 times. So, lagay na natin. The process of answering a true or false question, di ba? Are they independent? Yes, kasi hindi naman ma-influence yung sagot ko sa number 1 yung sagot ko sa number 2, di ba? So yun, they're n independent trials of a binary experiment. It's a true or false test. So tawag dun, true or false lang yun, yung outcomes for each trial, right? With a constant probability of success. So we're assuming we're guessing, the probability of getting the correct answer is 50-50 lang. 50% chance of getting the correct answer, right? So everything within this definition is satisfied. So that's why it's a binomial random variable. So since we have shown that it's binomial, we know that the probability for each outcome is gonna be given by this formula. So kung i-fill up natin yung table, ano ulit siya, ganito yung itsura, di ba? X is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5. Anything else beyond that, wala. Bawal ako mag-6 correct answers. 5 items lang walang bonus. Hindi bawal mag-negative 1. So P of X, how can we fill up these blanks? So you're gonna follow this formula. So let's say, let's fill up the first blank. What's the probability that I will get 0 correct answers? And the number of correct answers is equal to 0. So we just plug in. So ano lang, dito sa formula na to, yung unang term na yan yung combination, just so we're clear, hindi siya fraction ha. So yung button sa calculator na NCR, siya yun. So n is equal to 5, alam natin. X is equal to 0 daw, 0 yan. P is equal to 0.5. We raise it to X, that's 0. 1 minus P is equal to 0.5. We raise it to 5 minus 0. So we have this formula. So paki-compute, anong sagot dyan? Bakit 0 yung X? Gusto ko kasi i-fill up itong blank na ito. Kaya 0 yung X. Kapag gusto ko i-fill up yung second blank, 1 yung X. So, ganun. Sige, paki-compute itong X equals 0. Ano yung clarification? Okay. Bakit daw naging P is equal to 0.5? True or false kasi siya, 50-50 chance of getting the answer correct. We're assuming na nanghuhula lang si student. Ha? So 50% chance. So doon ang galing yun. Sige pa, ano to? Pakisagot. Nung nawala yung 1. Nasaan yung, anong 1? Itong 1 minus P na to. Kasi 1 minus 0.5 ay 0.5 din. In-automatic ko na. 0.5 din naman siya. Yun, 1 out of 32. May sagot na may sagot na ako nakuha. 1 out of 32. So nakita na kung bakit 32. Yan, 1 out of 32 yan. Pag ginawa kong x equals 1, 5 out of 32 yan for sure. Makukuha nyo lahat yung values na yan. Okay? So ganun siya nakuha. Kasi I'm assuming that it's a binomial random variable. Okay? So follow-up question, what if I want to get the probability that I'll get at least one correct answer? How do I write it? It's the probability that x is greater than or equal to 1, greater than or equal to 1, ganyan. And how do we solve for it? Kunin natin lahat ng mga blanks na yan at i-add ko. Ganun kahaba? Not really. You have to realize na since this is a probability function, the sum netong row natin ng p of x, it should be 1. Assuming we have exhausted all values. 0 to 5 lang naman yung pwedeng values ni x, diba? So sum niya is 1. So to answer this, 1 minus p of x equals 0 lang, diba? Kuha yun. Bakit ganun siya? Napakadumi na. Wait lang. And 1 out of 32 daw ito, diba? What's the probability of the rest? It's gonna be 1 minus that, diba? That's gonna be 31 out of 32. So 31 out of 32, whatever that is in percentage, that's the chance of you getting at least one correct answer. So yun, nag-a-apply pa rin si complement rule. Yung complement rule na ginagamit natin last meeting, apply pa rin dyan. Probability pa rin naman yung inaaral natin. So okay na? Clear to? Paano pag x equals 1? Lahat ng x dyan, palitan mo ng 1. Ito magiging 5 minus 1, so 4 na lang. 5 out of 32 yung lalabas. Sure yan. Okay na. Move on na tayo. Next, ayan, last two na. Tapos na agad. And so hypergeometric distribution. So the hypergeometric distribution, basahin ulit natin. Distribution of the number of successes in small n objects picked from a pool of capital N objects with capital K successes among them. Napakagulo na naman. Gawa tayo example na lang para ma-illustrate siya. So let x be the number of kings. Sige, ibahin natin. Gawin na kings kahapon eh. Number of hearts on my hand when drawing 5 cards from a standard deck. Maliwanag bubunot ako ng 5, ilan dun yung hearts? Yung heart suit galing. Ganun yung binibilang natin. That's the random variable x. So anong possible values ni x? Pwedeng wala, pwedeng isa, pwedeng 2, 3, 4, or pwedeng lahat, di ba? 0 to 5. So itong complicated thing na ito, yun lang naman yun eh. Ano yung possible values niya? Even if 13 yung hearts, hindi pwedeng 13 yung nasa kamay ko kasi 5 lang sila. So yun lang ang ibig sabihin nito, 0 to 5. Pwede nyo i-interpret ng case to case na lang. Kasi ang gulo niyan eh, meron ko pang n plus k minus n. Yun lang naman ibig sabihin nun. Ano yung mga posibleng values? So next, why do we know that it's hypergeometric? So it's hypergeometric. Let's check with the definition. Because we're picking n equals 5 objects from a pool of capital N equals 52 objects in which k equals 13 are successes. 13 yung hearts, di ba? 13 yung hearts sa isang deck. So yun, we're picking 5 from a pool of 52 with 13 hearts. So that's why it's a hypergeometric random variable, si x natin. Alright? So now, kung ang question natin is, what's the probability that I will have, ilang hearts gusto nyo? 2 hearts na lang. What's the probability that I'll have exactly 2 hearts in my hand? So that's p of x is equal to 2. And we just plug in k, 13, combination x, that's 2. N minus k, that's 52 minus 13, that's 39. Combination n minus x, that's 5 minus 2, 3. All over 52 combination 5, capital N combination small n. And pwede rin pala siya basahin as 52 choose 5. So baka malito kayo sa mga salita ko. 52 combination 5, 52 choose 5. The same thing. So how do we make sense of this? Sa 13 na hearts sa deck, pili ako ng dalawa. Sa 39 na hindi hearts, pipili akong tatlo. Bakit tatlo? Kasi 5 yung kailangan ko piliin, di ba? And then for over, from 52 cards, pili ako ng 5. So pakisagot, anong sagot dyan? Hintayin ko, wala akong calcul. Malaki ba? Hindi yan malaki. Marami lang digits. Naka ba? Naka times 10 to the negative something. 0 to 1 lang dapat yan. Tapos tama yan, sure. Walang mali sa formula natin. Check yung mga parentheses ha. 0.27 ba? Sige, hintayin natin yung iba. Parang medyo malaki nga siya for ano. Pero malay mo naman, tama. Yung iba ba, sinasagutan nyo? Pakisagutan ha. Ayun, tama naman daw pala. Sorry, nag-doubt pa ako. Yan, 0.27. Tapos ano pala ha, yun, just for preference sake lang, pag maraming decimal places, as much as possible, I want to express them in 4 decimal places. So personal preference yun, para lang uniform tayo. Hindi ko naman mamalian pag tinrankate nyo sa dalawa. Yan lang. Kung gusto nyong madalian ako mag-check, gawin yung 4. Okay. Pag kasi 4 na ganyan, kapag ginamit nyo sa intermediate calculations, kunwari hindi pa yun yung final answer, tapos tinrankate nyo agad, malapit pa rin yung sagot. So yun. So 0.2743, 27.43% chance na I'll have exactly 2 hearts on my hand. Anong itsura niyan kapag naka-table? X can be 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5. Ito yung 0.27. The rest of the blanks, I can fill them up one by one. Excuse me. So, okay na. Move on na tayo. Last one. The last one is the Poisson distribution. So, ito yung pinaka-common actually na ginagamit. Naalala niyo yung COVID example natin kanina. The reason why we can fill up, why we can assume probabilities for each outcome, yung number of new cases. Most common assumption for count data is Poisson. Ina-assume natin na Poisson siya. Ano ba yung Poisson? So the Poisson distribution, it's the distribution of the number of occurrences. So yun na. Trigger ka na agad dun, di ba? Number of occurrences of a certain event for a certain period given that it occurs lambda times on average. So it's the Greek letter lambda. Okay. So let's give another example na lang. Let y be the number of typographical errors I make per slide. Okay? So ako mismo, number of typo errors I make per slide. So we say that y is Poisson since we're counting the number of occurrences of something for some period or some bound once per slide, di ba? Assuming it occurs, let's say I'm saying it occurs twice on average. I make 2 mistakes per slide on average. So even if that's the average, there's a chance naman, of course, diba, na I'll make no mistakes. I'll make 1 mistake. I'll make 10 mistakes. So each corresponding outcome has a chance. So actually, there's no limit on the number of mistakes I'll make. Hindi katulad ni hypergeometric, hanggang 5 ka lang kanina. Hindi katulad ni binomial, hanggang 5 ka lang kasi 5 yung questions. This time, walang limit. Walang limit yung number of mistakes ko. So, alright. So, if we ask, what's the probability that I won't make any mistakes on one slide? So, that's the probability of x equals 0. We just plug in E, that's the constant, raised to negative lambda, times lambda raised to x0 over 0 factorial, giving us e to the negative 2 lang yan. Bakit? Ito ay 1 lang, raised to 0. Ang 0 factorial ay 1 din. So e to the negative 2, what's the answer? Okay, 4 decimal places na tayo. Calcu practice nyo na rin yan. Yung E yung constant yan, 2.7 something yung value niya. Yung 0.1353. So I'll believe that na yan, marami namang sagot. So 13.53%. 13.53% of the time or around 14% of the time, I won't make any mistakes in one slide. So that's it. For distributions na yun. Actually, meron pa nung geometric and negative binomial, but I think I'll reserve it for next meeting. So in the meantime, let's answer one example na lang muna. Then hopefully kaya nyo na yung activity nyo. Yan, pakita ko lang kung ano mga steps yung gusto ko sanang makita ha. So let's answer this example. Suppose that the probability of giving birth to a male is 50%. Find the probability that in a family of 5 children, there will be an A, B, C. Alright? So before you answer the problem, establish muna natin what's our random variable. Doon naman ako nagsisimula lagi, di ba? Ano yung Y? Define natin. So ano yung X? Actually, kahit anong letter gusto nyo. What are we counting? Anyone want to give? Ano yung X? Anong binibilang natin? Number ng anak ba? Number ng lalaki? Number ng babaeng anak? Number ng parents ba? Ano? Number ng boys, di ba? So we're interested with the number of male children. So number of male children, that's why I want you to define this eh. Baka mamaya, number of female, pag number of female children, pwede pa rin siyang tama pero that's gonna be your point of reference. Lahat ng mga calculations, number of females yung interested ka. So number of male children para madali. Okay? Next, we define the distribution of X. Anong distribution ni X? May apat tayong diniscuss, ano siya? Uniform, binomial, hypergeometric, or Poisson? From the scenario being described. Continuous ba? Kasi ano na, segue tayo saglit dito. Ano yung possible na values ni X? Anong pwedeng mga sagot kay X? Ilan ang pwedeng maging anak na lalaki ng pamilya na yan? Pwedeng 0, pwedeng 1, pwedeng 2, pwedeng 3, pwedeng 4, pwedeng 5, di ba? And hindi equal yung chances ng mga outcomes na yan. So hindi siya discrete uniform. Diba? Hindi naman equal yung chance na wala akong anak na lalaki sa isang anak na lalaki and so on. Hindi siya equal. Kasi ito yung magiging problem pala. Hindi siya hypergeometric na naman. Bakit? Ang hypergeometric, ayan, by elimination, binomial. Okay, binomial siya. Pag Poisson, given ka ng average rate, so wala ka namang average rate na binigay. Pag hypergeometric, ano kasi siya eh. Okay, ganito. Imagine nyo yung card problem natin kanina. Pag bumunot ako na, sige, anong probability na makuha ko si 4 of spades kunwari? 1 out of 52, di ba? Tama. So pag nakabunot na ako ng isang card, anong probability next na anong probability na makuha ko si 4 of spades? 1 out of 51 na lang, 'di ba? Kasi 51 cards na lang. So dependent trials yung mga 'yon. So eto kasi anong probability na lalaki yung magiging anak kapag lalaki yung unang anak? Same lang, 'di ba? Doesn't affect each other. Independent trials sila. Binomial 'to. So shortcut na rin lang is meron ko nakalagay diyan, no? May probability kang binigay. So yun yung parameter P. meron ka ditong constant na n, 5 trials. So parang ginawa mong true or false, same siya dun sa true or false exam. Male or female, binary outcomes, probability is constant, 0.5. Ang experiment mo yung paggawa ng anak, 5 times mong ginawa. Okay. So 5 children. So x is binomial. N equals 5, P is equal to 0.5. Kapag establish yan, madali nang sagutin lahat. Kasi alam mo na kung anong formula gagamitin mo eh. Oops. Wait. Fill up lang natin lahat. So number 1, letter A, that's what's the probability that x, the number of boys, will be equal to 2? So that will be 5 children, choose 2, 0.5 raised to 2 times 0.5 raised to 3. Giving us actually an 10/32. 10/32 yung magiging sagot. What's the probability of at least one boy? P of x greater than or equal to 1. Yan yung at least. Na ano natin ito, di ba? Nagawa na natin yung example kanina. So given na 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 siya, gusto ko kunin ito. 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5. That's just 1 minus yung scenario na 0, di ba? And given that it has the same parameters as our true or false example, 31 out of 32 din yan. Same yung NP nila eh. So, ang gusto ko gawin nyo sana, paki-compute sa decimal. Ano yung 10 out of 32 sa decimal? So, we need that to answer letter C. Sige, 0.3125. Okay? So, why do we need that? Letter C kasi, out of 1,000 families with 5 children, how many would you expect to have exactly 2 boys? We're saying that 31.25% of all families will have 2 boys. If we have 1,000 families in total, what's 31.25% of that? That's 312.5. So since we're talking about families, it's okay to round up or round off. So about 313 families, you're expecting them to have exactly 2 boys. Yun, so ganun siya sagutin. Tapos na agad. 1, 2, 3, ABC. Yan. Kaya important si steps 1 and 2.